지금 말씀하신 것처럼 월드뱅크의 두 가지 일이 경제 성장 각 나라예요. 그다음 또 하나 이제 빈곤 퇴치잖아요. 그런데 이제 썸타임 그게 이렇게 상충하잖아요. 그러니까 경제 성장 막 신경 쓰다 보면 가난한 나라에 뭐 기부하고 이런 게 줄 수밖에 없고요. 그런 조정을 하는 데 있어서 월드뱅크가 많은 지금까지 비난을 받았었던 건 잘 사는 나라의 이득을 더 많이 생각하고 정치적인 이유, 논리에 또 많이 지배를 받고 그래서 정말 가난한 특히 이제 developing country나 뭐 third world 같은 경우에는 소외된다 오히려 그런 비난이 많았는데 이제 취임하시면 좀 달라질까요?
Well, you know, back in the early 1990s,
네.
I wrote some of those articles myself, those critical pieces about a focus on economic growth that really left out the poorest. I wrote some of those things myself.
네.
But the world has changed so much. I mean, again, the reason that that Korea is such a strong and important example is because Korea invested in education and health early on.
Yes.
Right? They had a mixture of economic policies that over time has allowed it to grow tremendously, and that's why so many people are studying it. But the word that people are using inside the World Bank is having rapid, strong growth of the GDP that is pro-poor. That's the language that they use. Many European countries have called it inclusive growth, and I think there's now a very strong global consensus that we need economic growth, that we need market-focused economic growth, but then it must be inclusive.
Yes.
And again, I think the Arab Spring countries are the best example of what can go wrong if you have growth, but that's not inclusive. It's very exciting to me that there's such a strong global consensus around that idea. You know, there may still be some who say that no, you don't have to worry about health and education and including poor people. You just, as long as the economy grows, everything is fine. But I think actually that's the minority.
So you emphasize investing in human beings.
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. That's what I've done all my life, focused on investing in human beings. But I mean, let's just take some examples. You know, when we focused on treating people in Africa for HIV, it was hard for us to conceive of a situation in which 20 million people, that's the number of people living with HIV. If you were to say that all those 20 million people are just going to die, right? I can't imagine that there would have been the kind of investment that we see now. I mean, some African countries are the fastest growing in the world. I believe that our work on investing in human beings, it wasn't just HIV, it was tuberculosis, malaria, lots of other things that were invested, and also in education. There were many things that, in fact, the World Bank participated in, that investing in human beings in Africa set up an environment where now we're seeing rapid economic growth.
Yes.
You know, HIV is a very specific problem. Again, it was a problem that President Jim Wolfenson, when he was at the bank, really stressed. And what would have happened if we didn't treat HIV is that nobody would know their HIV status. Because what we knew was that if there was no treatment, there was no reason to get tested. So we would have had a whole population that didn't know their HIV status.
Yes.
And people who are at the most productive working age would have been dying right and left because of no access to treatment. Now there's almost 5 million people on treatment in Africa. And for me, it's a really great example of how investing in human beings, investing in the things that keep them alive, keep them participating in the workforce, are actually good for economic growth. Again, the good news is, I think there's a very strong global consensus around that issue.
Yes.
You know, there's no question that different countries, poorest countries, middle-income countries, the developed countries, you know, at times have different interests. But for me, this is the most exciting thing about the World Bank. You know, this is a multilateral institution. The election showed us that we have to listen to each other. The rich countries, the middle-income countries, the poor countries, we have to sit in one room, we have to listen to each other, and we have to go down a path that makes sense for the most people. This is both incredibly difficult, but really, really important. It's the most important thing. I think that the challenge of multilateralism is both one of the most difficult things that we can do, but is the greatest hope for the future. We've got to do this. We've got to talk to each other. And moreover, we've got to talk to each other about how we can help each other spur the kind of economic growth that everybody needs, while at the same time taking care of the poorest people.
네. 컨플릭트가 많을 텐데 그걸 다 이제 중재하셔야 되잖아요. 그래서 부담도 되시겠어요. 많은 버든도 느끼시고 책임감도 느끼시고. 그 빈곤국 특히 이제 뭐 페루나 IT 등에서 하신 그런 구호 사업이 이번에 월드뱅크의 총재로 선임되시는데 하나의 이유가 됐을까요?
So before me, every World Bank president was either a banker, a politician, some mix of those two.
Yes, yes.
And I was very surprised when
everybody was surprised and happy.
I was quite surprised, and yet I was also humbled. The World Bank is the most important development institution in the world. It's one of the largest and certainly arguably the most influential. It has such a big impact. On the front door, as you walk into the World Bank, there's an inscription and it says, "We dream of a world free of poverty." Right?
Please.
So,
yes.
I mean, I can think of no more inspiring
I see.
Mission than that. We dream of a world free of poverty. So I've spent my entire life trying to find ways of investing in human beings,
yes.
of providing them access to technology, and in places like Haiti and Malawi and Rwanda and Lesotho, we work in the poorest rural areas, just trying to bring basic infrastructure, providing jobs, and we've done it at first with almost no money. Right? Now, Partners in Health, they have a lot more money, but still, it's very small compared to the World Bank. The World Bank's influence, their ability to transform economies, their ability to work with countries. I mean, the World Bank doesn't do it by itself. It does it by working with the countries. Yes. But its ability to make transformative investments in countries is just, it's an opportunity that I never imagined that I would have. But when presented with it, of course, I felt like I couldn't say no. I mean, these are just opportunities. To be frank, I felt like these are opportunities that don't happen for people like me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because
you're so qualified.
I'm not a politician. I'm not, I'm not a banker. I haven't really worked on that kind of level before. My work has been, in communities, squatter settlements in Lima. This is where I was yesterday. I went back and I spent a whole afternoon meeting former patients, people who thought they were going to die, who everyone thought was going to die, and somehow.
So are they healthy now?
They're healthy now.
Oh.
They're working. I mean, these were people who everyone thought was going to die, and one by one they came up, and I saw them again, and now they're working. One of them is working as a nurse's assistant in a hospital. Her son is doing well. There was a physician whose daughter had drug-resistant TB who now is about to go to college. I mean, this is what I do.
You made a miracle.
Well, no. I mean, it wasn't me personally. It was the whole community and the physicians and everybody. But my work has been focused on those kinds of communities. My work has been focused on educating young people, right? So it was really a surprise that President Obama would give me the opportunity to lead such an important institution.
그래서 그런 기회가 오니까 개인적으로도 정말 이렇게 감동적이셨겠어요.
Yes, I was. I was really moved.
이제 진짜 일할 수 있구나 이런 생각이요.
Well, I mean, so what is most powerful about the World Bank, right, is that they have money and they make investments. They invest in the private sector. They give very no interest loans and grants to the poorest countries, but they also make loans to countries like India and China, the middle income countries. And they do all that, and in addition, they're almost like a research university. They have researchers who are studying every day the outcomes of these investments they're making. Yeah. So they on the one hand have the money, and on the other hand have the researchers and the brilliant people who study the outcomes. So it's a combination that really doesn't exist anywhere else. Right? So for me, in addition to being very humbled by the chance to lead, I'm also really excited by this opportunity.
Yes.
The combination of doing and thinking and researching together at the same time is really unmatched. And this is the institution.
And then everything is possible.
I think anything's possible.
Yes.
I think anything is possible. Yeah. And it's again. I still to this day, it's just. I'm almost shocked, yes. That a person like me, yes. who spent time in places like Caraballo and northern Lima, and in rural Haiti, would have a chance to lead an institution like this. Yeah. Hasn't happened before.
Yes, you cannot say a person like me. Yes, you have a reason. Yes.